Hello, hello. It's been a minute. Give me just a few minutes. I want to make sure everything is set up okay on my end, but I'm excited to start working on something again. Hey Pika, how you doing? You're gonna like this, so I got a couple of things set up. I got this set up. Obviously inspired by your command. I also got... Oh, and Nightbot just posted at the same time because it posts every 15 minutes, so that's funny. But I also got this command set up. And I got one set up for social. So just to give you a heads up, if you need to see any commands, you can just run the commands command, and then there's a list of the ones that are available. But it should just be those three. Yeah, how are you doing? Excellent. Yeah, fires are great. Bob's Burgers is obviously great. And looking for houses, that's awesome. Excited to do the same. Maybe later we can look at some. Together on my end, I believe I do. So the general goal of today is going to be working on adding a light theme to Octo. So Octo, the app, which you can see here, has a dark theme by default, and that's just because I am a fan of dark themes, and I feel like there's a lot more apps out there that have light themes by default, so I just decided I wanted to kind of flip the script a little bit and do a dark theme first. I mean, you obviously know that, Pika, but for anyone else that may be wondering, that's kind of the idea, is that I started with a dark theme for this app, but it's finally reaching a point of stabilization where I think it's time to add the light theme. Excuse me. And to kind of approach this, I kind of have to approach it in two phases. And one of the phases I actually have started on already, which is the markdown editor itself. So, you know, when you start writing in Octo, you write a header, you have kind of some default theme that's applied to just this editor itself. So the entire app handles documents, obviously, and it handles everything from like tag organization to searching, filtering, etc. But this little piece right here, just the part where you're actually typing, I recently pulled out into a standalone component. So if I pop back over in the browser here, you can see that on my page I've got Octo, which is the app we were just looking at, for those that are unaware. And then now I ripped out the core markdown editor of Octo into a standalone repo called View Markdown Editor, because it is a View component. And this component is built on top of CodeMirror. So you can see here a little example of what it looks like as a standalone component. It looks just like if you were looking at Octo, except instead of all of the extra functionality, it's really just the little editor portion. So this component is what you see here in the dark box, and it has a dark theme applied, as you can see. So what I did pretty recently, within the last week, was I added a basic light theme to this component. And then what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to pull the updates to the component into Octo, and then we're gonna need to add a light theme to Octo itself, because this light theme, again, is just for the editor. There's probably going to be some tweaks we're going to need to do here as well, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. So you see here we've got the terminal. I've already got this set up here, and I think I just need to run yarn serve. Excuse me. And once this is up and running, you can visit it in the browser, and you can see the little demo app that I put together that is just to test out and show off the editor itself. So localhost 8080 here. And as you can see, this is just the markdown editor. But I already added a light theme here. So you can also see that the theme can be switched with this little toggle that I added to the top right of this demo. For Octo itself, it's going to be a little bit different. There will be a setting to toggle the theme, but it'll be buried under the settings. It's eventually, depending on what I'd like to do, I may end up adding a top level switch that's kind of visible everywhere. But for the most part, I think it makes sense to just match the system theme, and then from there to allow the user to go into the settings and change it from light or dark theme. Seems to be more common. But yeah, as you can see here, we can toggle between them. And I essentially want the same functionality, but in Octo, which is going to be a pretty similar level of effort, I would say. And it might even require us changing some things here. So again, this package is standalone now. And in Octo, if we actually open up Octo here and look at package.json, you can see that it's pulling in the view markdown editor package at a specific version here. And so the version that we previously had before I added the light theme was 0.1.0, and then the newest version is 0.2.0. So I just bumped the minor version. This is something I'm probably going to be working on for a little while before I feel comfortable enough to label it as a 1.0 release, which would be stable. Hello world, exactly, the default text that you use when doing a demo. So one of the first things we need to do is we need to tell Octo, instead of pulling a specific version down, because we're going to be working on, potentially working on the markdown editor itself, we're going to point it towards the folder for view markdown editor, which I do have installed locally. And to do that, we just change it from the version to file : as a prefix, and then the path to the actual project. So // which just means go up a directory. So we're in Octo directory at the moment. We'll go up a directory and then down into view markdown editor. And this just tells npm that we need to that we want to load the project files from a local system folder instead of downloading it from npm. So let's go ahead and save this, assuming that I did it right. And then in Octo, what we're going to do is we're going to run npm install, because I'm using just npm for Octo. For this new component, I started using Yarn, and who knows, maybe eventually I'll swap Octo to use Yarn as well. So let's run npm install and make sure this actually works like we would expect. Find out, no repository. Oh, that's fine. That's just a warning. What is this? So it says it's not able to find a file. Interesting. Try running that again, see if maybe it was just a sort of transient issue. If not, then we can figure out what's going on. I may need to remove my previous so I may need to remove my previous build because it was pulled down from node modules. So I'm going to say rmrf./node modules/ at voracious dev view markdown editor. So let's go ahead and just remove that directory. And try running an npm install again. If that doesn't do it, then I may need to investigate a bit further, because I'm not 100% sure what that error is about. Better? Okay, awesome. Looks like it worked that time. So because we changed the actual location of the files, and it's creating a symlink or a symbolic link into another folder on our system, it looks like there was some sort of conflict with npm. This is not something that someone would normally have to do. Normally you would just be bumping a package version. You wouldn't be loading a package from your local file system. The only reason we're doing it is because we're actually using it for development. So now that I've done that, let's go ahead and open or actually I think we need to run Octo, so I'm going to open another tab here. Say npm run serve dev, and this should launch Octo on port 8888. Dependency was not found. How interesting. Odd. Let me go ahead and figure out what's happening. Thanks. I'm glad to hear that you enjoy following along. I try to be detailed, but you know, it's always hard to say whether it's too much or not enough information. Proxy's barking at the wind. What a cute pup. Gotta love the puppers. Okay. What am I doing? I need to figure out why it can't find the package. Couple of ideas. Maybe I didn't bundle the package. It is running the build, so let's do this. Let's do yarn build and make sure the production build is actually bundled. It has me wondering too if I may have forgotten to do the production build before publishing this version. I'm concerned now. Let's try it again. Okay, so let's clear this up and try this again. Let's Octo's running, so I don't think I'll have to rerun it. It looks better now, actually. So let's pop open the browser and go to host here. Excellent. Appears to be running. Everything looks normal, like you would expect to see in Octo if you're familiar with it. So next, what am I going to do? I would like to find a writing app here, or a document, just to test this out. And what do we have? Excellent. So I know that this is actually working and that we are pulling the newest build from Vue Markdown Editor for one very clear reason, which is in Vue Markdown Editor here, the pull request that I shipped that included the light theme doesn't just include the light theme, it also solves a couple of problems. It fixes the syntax highlighting for the Vue language, which was broken. The Vue syntax highlighting, I'll cover why that was broken in a minute, and then it also removed some dependencies on Bootstrap classes. So we'll come back to that in a second. But the reason that Vue syntax highlighting was broken was because, again, Vue Markdown Editor is built on top of CodeMirror. And whoops, I actually want to pull up an Octo here. This is the language I was talking about. So see how you've got the 3 backticks for a code block, and then it says Vue. So, excuse me. What was happening before, and actually I could just show you this in the in my production version of Octo here. Boom. You can see what's happening in the live version right now, because I haven't actually shipped this change, is that Vue syntax highlighting is not working. It all just appears as like this light white grayish color. And the reason for that is that in CodeMirror, certain languages can be built on top of other languages. And so the way that the Vue syntax highlighting works is it's actually a combination of HTML, JavaScript, and CSS languages. So not to rabbit hole too much, but the solve was essentially making it so that there's a special case for when it sees the Vue highlighting. Because this editor does dynamic language syntax highlighting, what that means is that all the language highlighters are not actually loaded by default, because that would require quite a bit of bandwidth to do. So instead, what it does is when it sees a language show up in a code block, if it hasn't already been downloaded, then it downloads it. And so what I'm doing is I'm just checking for the Vue language, and if Vue is one of the languages in the code blocks, then we just automatically also tell it to go ahead and load HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And so that fixes the highlighting here, because we've got our HTML, our JavaScript, and our CSS. So that to me was the indicator that the bundling worked properly, because again, it's broken in the real version right now. So once we ship our changes, it will be working, but that made it very obvious to me that we're using the new bundle. So actually using the light theme or implementing this light theme shouldn't be super difficult. Like if you look at Octo as an application, it doesn't use a lot of colors, ignoring the editor piece because all of the highlighting here is handled by that library. The actual editor itself though doesn't really use a lot of colors. So we've got like a darker color for the sidebar. We have a font color, which is like a light gray. We've got the logo color, which is not going to change more than likely. I might need to change it a little bit just to offset the contrast. Because on white, the contrast is going to appear a little bit different, and the Octo logo color is probably going to appear a little more washed out. So we might darken it up a little bit for that, but we'll see. And then we've got like our search areas, some borders, we've got the actual editor background, but for the most part, this app only has like a handful of colors. So one way I'm going to figure out exactly what colors we are using is in Octo here, I'm going to do a global find. And I'm going to just search for color : because I'm really just looking for the CSS definitions, and there could potentially be some class names or something else with color in it. So I'll add the colon here because that'll cover both color and background color. And then I might also need to search for something like background itself, but we'll start with this. So it looks like most of our definitions here are in app.view. Looks like we have a couple of color overrides in context. I believe those colors are actually, so this one is a transparency color. It's RGBA, meaning I'm using it as a type of mask. And then it looks like we've got a lightish gray color and some sort of blue color here, which I think is for the highlighting in our context menu. So if we go back to the app and we say context here, you can see the blue. That's what that blue is for. Let's see. So there's a couple things in context. We've got a color defined in document for some reason. So I might even do a little bit of refactoring here where we pull that out of document and define it in the app.view. Same thing goes for key mod k.view. So this is like for our, those are for our little tips for keyboard shortcuts. So on the left-hand side there, you see Command Shift F. You also see Command K. So the Command K keys actually highlight if you press Command K to indicate that new shortcuts are available. And then if I were to press N, we do a new document. If I were to press C, we change the context. If I press E, we'll go to the settings, etc. So those colors, honestly, will probably be able to be left alone. Most of the grayish colors are going to be fine, I think. So I'm thinking we start with the background colors and go from there. We also need to add a new settings object so that we can actually configure whether it's on the light theme or the dark theme. So we'll get to that in a minute. I'll just go ahead and hard code it for now. So the way that this new theme sort of API works on the Markdown editor component is pretty straightforward. If we're looking at the code and we go into editor, type here, settings editor, we'll see that that's settings editor. That's actually not what I meant to even open. I even read it out loud. So the editor is what we're looking for. And in the editor, we have Markdown editor, which is imported from that library. So the editor, Markdown editor, and what we're going to pass in here is a theme. So you can see theme equals, the default is dark. So if I say dark, I'll not bind it to a variable at the moment because it's just going to be a straight string. But you can see here the theme is dark. And if we do that and we open, actually, let me do something real fast. I have some notes in here that I copied from my personal app. So I'm going to go ahead and just clear those out. And we're going to start from scratch. Oh yeah, this has to do with some of the importing that I did. So that's not a real world error. So let's do that. We'll restart here and boom. All right, we've got a document to work with now that's kind of started from scratch here. So You can see here nothing's changed. It's set to the dark theme. It looks exactly like you would expect it to look. But if I go in here and I change theme to light, nothing happens. Something should happen though, so that's kind of odd. Give me just a moment to figure out why it's not changing. Oh no, yeah. I mean, this is not super unexpected, I'd say. These things just kind of happen, so. Let's look at, let me go ahead and open up the View Markdown Editor project. Oops. Oh, it opened on my other screen. I wondered what was going on here. So we've got the View Markdown Editor project here, and theme is a prop, which is a string, a default of dark. And the way that I actually use this in our demo app in app.view, as you can see here, is we call Markdown Editor and we pass it a theme of theme, which is a variable, and that has dark or potentially changes to light. So that's super odd. Odd that that's not working, I should say. Let's pop back over to and just make sure that nothing weird is happening. Because the text should turn dark if the dark theme was actually working. So we're in Octo, we're in the editor, pass in a theme of light. I guess I can go ahead and inspect it in the browser and just see if it's even properly setting that attribute. Good starting place, I'd say. A lot of code mirror specific things in here. Coming up a level. View Markdown Editor, Editor, Editable, and Dark. So it's not accepting theme as light for some reason. I find that kind of interesting. It is specifying dark here. Let me pull open my, whoops, I just closed out, but that's okay. Let me pull open View here and see if we can see what this component's actually receiving. Theme dark, how odd. Go into the editor. Let me change it to a bound variable just for now, just to see what's kind of going on. But if I set the theme as theme here, and we add a data property right here called theme, we make it light. Like the hot reloading isn't working for some reason. I find that pretty odd. Let me just go ahead and restart the dev server here. There we go. Now it's working. Let's see if it's actually hot reloading now. Okay, now it's working. It's actually hot reloaded. I'm not really sure why that was a problem, but we kind of moved into a piece that I was going to do anyway, which was binding theme to the variable. Let's go ahead and just try it though with just the. Yeah, okay. Now it's working just fine. I can say light and I can say dark, and you can see that primarily what changes here is the text color, and that's what we're gonna need. I'm gonna bind it to the variable though, because that actually is what we need to do. I was just trying to test it out before we actually set that up, but now that we have it, there's no reason not to. So what I'm gonna do though, instead of a data property, theme is going to come from settings object. So we're gonna call the store and access our settings and pull it from there. Before we kind of change direction though and handle that, I'm okay with just kind of hard coding it And I'm going to change it to light, and we can start working on actually changing the Octo theme itself, not the editor theme. So one of the first things we're going to need to do is figure out what we're going to change the editor background color to. And in our find results here, we can see that, let's see, I probably don't need to worry about the tag list. I will need to worry about the left sidebar here. I will need to worry about some of these other things, but for now, let's just start with the editor background color, which I don't think is actually defined in editor. I think that is defined here in app. I think it's the default background color here. So if we change this to something like white, yeah, okay, there we go. So as you can already see, this is, you can kind of see how this like iterative approach works, and we're just going to be going and kind of tweaking different colors and trying them out and figure out what would make a good light theme. I want it to contrast well with the dark theme because people might be switching back and forth. I feel like for the most part it's probably going to be a pick the light theme or pick the dark theme, but who knows, maybe people like to swap it and use the light theme during the day and dark theme during the night or something like that. I know I've definitely done that in the past. So one thing that stands out already, which is pretty obvious, is that this logo in the background is a much higher contrast now. If we change this back, you know, it kind of fades in and you can read pretty well. Well, not now that the light theme is on the editor, but if it were the lighter colors again, you'd be able to read it pretty well in the background. That's because of the low contrast between the logo and the background color. We'll obviously need to fix that. Let's go ahead. Trying to think of what order I'd like to attack this in. So we have the choosing of the colors. We need to set up the settings so that we can toggle between light theme and dark theme. And well, you know, let's go ahead. I know I said we'd do that later, but let's go ahead and tackle that. Let's tackle the settings. That way I don't have to keep coming in here and going into the editor and changing this value between light and dark, just to test the contrast between light and dark theme. So I'm going to go ahead and change theme to a computed property. And we keep these alphabetical if I can. And we're going to return this .store.state.settings. So settings is a module on the state. Excuse me. And we're probably going to nest it as something like settings.theme. Actually, maybe just settings.theme. I don't think we really need to say, for now at least, whether or not it's just going to be light or dark. I don't think we need like any special modes or something. So if we go into the settings module, which we see here, all we need to do now, so when we call store.state.settings, we're accessing this state object here. We can access anything nested under here, settings.crypto, settings.editor, etc. And so what we're going to be accessing is a new one called theme, and the default is going to be dark, right? Because Octo is dark theme by default, and I don't necessarily want to change that standard. I just want to give people the option to have a light theme if they'd like it. So dark theme will be the default here, and then we need the ability to toggle it, right? So I'm thinking that I'm obviously set up something. I could set up a toggle action, which just changes it between light and dark theme. But you know, for now, I'm just going to have a set theme, and we'll just pass the value in from the settings component. I think that will make sense because who knows, down the road, we might even support custom themes. Maybe people want to design their own, maybe a red theme or a pink theme or a blue theme or something like that. So I'll just create a set theme action and mutation, and we'll go from there. So we'll just start here. I'll go ahead and duplicate this line. Again, we're just going to call it set theme. Exactly. Love customizing. I also enjoy customizing, and I feel like a lot of people do. Hey, Gaming Hype Man, welcome in, welcome in. How are you doing? Thanks. Appreciate the compliment. Also, if I need to make any adjustments on sound or music volume or anything else, just let me know. I did test them out beforehand, and I feel like things sound pretty okay. But like I said, just let me know. Glad to hear it. I mean, not about the being tired part, you know. I totally get that. I'm actually feeling kind of okay today for once because recently I've been feeling just very tired. So it's nice to not feel overly exhausted today. But we all have those days, right? All right, so what we're doing here is creating the mutation. The mutation is what actually changes the value in the store itself. And we're gonna say state.theme equals theme, right? So set theme, the mutation is just gonna be really basic and it updates the value of theme. Hey Hannah, how you doing? Good to see you. I know you all can't see me because I decided to go camless. It's just a lot, what's the word? A lot less pressure, I think, just to kind of like chill here and let you focus on the code. So I'm excited about it, and hopefully you don't mind it. All right, so theme equals theme. One thing I've started doing with newer additions to the code bases, I'm actually starting to move in the direction of no semicolons. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove that. I know it's inconsistent, but I'm doing it like on a change-based basis for now. And I'll probably go back and do some refactoring and remove them in other places, but because they're not required most of the time, I'm trying to avoid the use of them. Just looks a little bit cleaner, helps with readability a bit, and while it's not quite as explicit, and some people have pretty strong opinions about that, past me included, I've decided recently that I really enjoy writing JavaScript without semicolons. Like the cases where it's a problem are so few and far between, and with modern like linters and everything else, it's just so easy to catch them. Glad you love the command. Yeah, inspired by Pikatif. I don't know if I have a shout out thing. I don't know if I have that set up or not. I think I need to get that set up. So what I'll do instead is I'll say, you know, her name is there in chat, but go check her out. She's awesome. She has a very inclusive community. And really that's her number one goal. She's new to gaming, but she's trying to expand her gaming collection and experience. But her primary goal is just to offer a safe, inclusive community for everyone. So no haters there. Same goes for gaming as well. So actually I'm gonna go ahead and plug, I don't know why I typed that one again, because I just realized it didn't actually do anything, but twitch.tv/. Hopefully that URL is correct. Let me know if it's not and I'll fix it. But yeah, both of them, awesome communities, awesome channels, and they don't tolerate hate, and they are very inclusive. And that's also what we're trying to do here, right? We're trying to make a safe space for people to be able to ask questions that they might feel are like new or dumb or what have you, because no question is a dumb question. It's great to be curious about things, and it's especially great to maybe admit that you don't know something. There's nothing wrong with that. We all have our different paths, and we all have plenty to learn forever. So I want to make sure that people feel comfortable here too. Moving back to what we were working on, so we made the mutation, and making the actual action is pretty similar. So what we're going to do is I just copied that bit because it's going to be very similar. We're going to make it an async function instead, and then we're going to call this context, as is tradition in Vue, and we'll say context commit, and this is just the action just calls the mutation. And the only real difference here between actions and mutations is that actions themselves are asynchronous, which is why I actually use the async keyword here, just to make it very explicit that they are asynchronous, and mutations are synchronous. So we just pass along the theme value here, which is going to be passed in whenever we call this action. and that will be done in our settings component. So if we pop over to the settings, I think I called it, yep. Using the prefix is common practice in Vue when you want to build a component that only has one instance. So some components can be reused throughout the application. One example of that in Octo, for example, is tag. Like, there are plenty of places in the UI where you see many tags listed, and those all use the same underlying component. And all that component does, if we open it up just as an example here, is it adds the little icon, the little tag label icon. It adds the tag name, and then it also configures the link to the tag. So it kind of handles all of this setup is done once, and then later all we have to do when we want to use the tag is say, you know, somewhere in the UI, tag, boom, and that's it. And then we pass in the tag. So maybe it's tag hello, right? So setting up components that are reusable, you typically don't use the as a prefix. But if it's only a one-time component like our settings, the actual one view that you go to edit your settings, it makes sense to have the prefix. In this, we actually have some nested component blocks. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one that we already have, and I'm just going to, actually, now that I think about it, we don't even need a whole new settings thing. We can just probably throw this configuration under editor. Should we throw it under editor? Maybe not, actually. Maybe we should stand up a new component for this, just because maybe down the road there's going to be more configuration around a theme. And the editor right now is pretty much an encapsulator of everything that affects the markdown editor specifically, and not necessarily the rest of the app. So we'll make theme its own thing here. And so that means we're going to just duplicate something that already exists. I'm trying to think if we already have a sort of radio layout. I think we do inside editor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into components here, settings, and editor. Double check. Yeah, we have a radio type of object here. So I'm just going to duplicate this file and we'll modify it to fit our needs. And we're going to call this theme, right? Makes sense. So the header here is going to be called theme. And just so you can see what this specific block looks like for the editor, I'll pull that open real fast. And right here, this is the header value that we have. And then nested under that little header are the different toggle options. And so what we're going to have for theme is going to be really basic. We're just going to have essentially this piece here, you know, just to like show you. So we're essentially just going to have this piece here, and it's going to have a dark mode and a light mode. Super basic. The rest of it, so like tab length, number of spaces, all that kind of stuff, we don't need. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete that bit. This is going to be setting a new namespace on our extendable component, which I would love to cover that sometime. The extendable component is kind of how I'm handling the UI extensions, which is something that I don't have documentation for yet, and I also don't really have an easy way for people to use it yet. It's more of an internal thing at the moment. But eventually, along with the extension API that Octo is going to provide for custom functionality, there's going to be a way to provide custom UIs as well, so that people can inject their own little HTML, CSS, JavaScript snippets into the actual Octo UI. So that way packages are not limited to just functionality. You can also manage interaction and UI a bit. So, but not going too deep into that. This is the block that pretty much matters. So you can see form group, it closes down here. And we're going to get rid of this top label because, I mean, this is going to be really basic for now. And instead, we're just going to have these two label objects. We really don't even need like a sub heading here. And it's just going to say dark and light, right? And so everything else outside of this form group I can get rid of as well. So this second form group, I'm just going to remove. Boom. Let's see. So I think we have an extra div now. find out here in a moment. Let's go ahead and get it loaded into the view so we can test it out. You see some Bootstrap buttons. Yes, gaming. I use Bootstrap for Octo. Almost every project I work on, almost any large project, you're going to be using some sort of CSS framework for the most part. It's incredibly important to understand CSS to a certain degree, but at the same time, the whole point of frameworks are to make you productive. So in any sort of like corporate enterprise professional setting, you often use, as a developer, I should say, you often use some sort of framework, and Bootstrap is just the most common one. Like many sites on the internet are built on top of Bootstrap. There are some others, most notably that developers like in recent times has been Tailwind CSS. And then one that I've actually used quite a bit, I haven't really used Tailwind much, I've looked at it a bit, but I haven't made the switch. But one that I used quite a bit that was kind of a contender to Bootstrap was something called Foundation. I think it was called Foundation. But I think that's probably still around, but I was using that like quite some time ago, around like 6 or 7 years ago, and Bootstrap absolutely blew them away. So I enjoy Bootstrap, and yeah, I mean, the whole goal and the goal of using utility frameworks like this, and Bootstrap has really been doing well in terms of moving into the utility direction. I don't know what version you use, gaming, but they just released, I think it's Bootstrap 5. Yeah, I think 4 is what they had, and I think they just released like the beta for Bootstrap 5, and Bootstrap 5 adds even more utility classes, which is just crazy because it already had so many, but there were absolutely some missing. And I actually had to kind of make do and kind of invent my own because of the missing utility classes. But the whole goal here is I shouldn't have to write custom CSS for the most part. I should just be able to use utilities to organize layout. Like really the custom CSS I'm writing is for my theming. It's for colors and things like that. Now, I do some overriding in some places, but the whole idea is that most of these components, if you look at a component here, you can see there's no style tag. A view component typically is comprised of a template section, which is HTML, a script section, which is JavaScript, and then optionally, the script is optional as well, but optionally a style section, which is where you specify your custom CSS. And most of the components in Octo have no custom CSS, and that is very much thanks to Bootstrap. So. And then this is actually, you'll notice, so button and button primary, you probably recognize gaming, but I invented my own called button toggle, which allows me to have a button looking element that wraps around either a checkbox or a radio button. And so you can see here in the UI, this is what it looks like for the checkboxes. Looks like a button, but allows you to toggle the checkbox. And then for the radio, this is what it looks like, right? And so I just kind of extended the existing button functionality and then allowed it to be wrapped around a custom radio. But it's just fun. It's just a lot of fun. I love tweaking these things and playing around with them. So kind of bouncing back here, I'm going to go ahead and import the one thing we need from settings, which, again, we copied this from editor, so we don't really need all of these things. All we need is set theme, right? I always write it as sort of a multi-line like this because you never know when I'm going to come in and add new lines. So for importing my actions, I usually just do this. Now, the name, instead of editor, is going to be theme, and we don't need these computed objects. Well, we do need one computed because of actually setting the theme. So we're going to just grab one. It's going to be called theme. We're going to get rid of the rest of these here. And so we have computed getters and computed setters, and this is just kind of the approach that you take when using Vue X inside of Vue, because you're not supposed to directly mutate objects that are in the state, so that are in the store, I should say. And so what you do is, instead of writing a normal computed or a normal like data property where you bind it using vModel, you write what's called a computed getter and a computed setter, and that allows you to pull the data, read the data from the store, but then to use actions, trigger actions to actually update the values. So what we're going to do is these are going to look pretty similar, except instead of settings.editor.tab size, it's going to be settings.theme, right? We're pulling that value as a string. And then we're going to be dispatching set theme, and the value is already a string, so that's not a big deal. And it's going to be whatever the value is. And this is just the param that gets passed in via the model. So up here now, we're going to bind this. It's not called key map, it's called theme. And because it's a radio, you can use vmodel on multiple of them at once, and then it just says whichever one is selected, that's the value that gets set. So vmodel theme, and then the value is going to be light here and dark here, right? So we've got dark and light theme. Dark is the default in our store, so what we should see once we actually add this to our settings is we should see that it's it has the dark button selected by default, even though we haven't actually stored anything in our settings yet. So in order to see this happen on the UI, right now you'll notice that there's still no theme here, and that's because we need to go in and we need to actually import this new component in the settings. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to import this new component. Just call it theme, because that's what it's called. And we'll add it down here. Whoops, sorry. We'll add it down here to our components list. And then we just need to include it here. So because it's such a short one and it's so simple, I'm actually going to go ahead and place it. I'll place it under editor, actually. Whoops. Boom, like so. So now, look at that. We've got our theme section, and dark is selected by default, which is what we expected, right? So I should be able to switch between dark and light. Nothing's happening because we haven't actually written our light theme, right? We haven't actually started using this settings object, but we will very soon. So dark theme, light theme. One thing you'll notice is that if I refresh the page here, it actually doesn't save the value. Right? And that's because there is one more piece that we have to handle when we add new settings objects via new types of mutations. Oh, it looks like there's not a space on those, so I'll remove it there too. When there's new types of mutations in our settings modules, they're not all, it's not like it tracks all mutations by default, because there's some mutations that should not trigger the data to be stored in the browser for page refresh. And so there's a whitelist of it. So there's a settings module, and there's also a settings cache plugin. So you'll see here, store plugins, caching, settings. And all we need to do is say, we want to import this new set theme mutation name. And then we want to say down here on set theme, we also want to update the local browser cache. So now that we've added it here, if we go in and we change it to light and then refresh the page, it will stay light, right? If I change it back to dark and refresh the page, it will be dark. So now our theme is actually being persisted across page refreshes, which is super important for an app that is client side and works entirely offline, right? It needs to persist across page refreshes. Okay, so now that our value is being set here, we can also check the view store. So I'm going to go ahead and say load state, and you're going to see under here that under settings, theme is dark. And you should notice that if I click on light over here, we'll see that theme now just got updated to light, right? So our store is being updated as you would expect it to be. If we go into our editor now, oops, let me go ahead and just close that for now. Boom, dark theme. Or sorry, not dark theme, light theme, because that's what we chose. So let's go back and we'll change it back to dark theme. And what do we have? Now it's our dark theme. It's readable with the dark background. So we actually have this working with the editor now, which is pretty cool, pretty straightforward. So the next step is going to be to actually have this work with the browser. I'm trying to think of how I want to set this up. I'm probably going to just add a class to the body tag, and then we'll use that for styling. So what that means is we need to, somewhere in our application, we need to watch the value of the theme, the settings theme, And anytime it changes, we need to change the classes that exist on the body tag. So funny enough, this is actually something I already did just for the demo purpose of View Markdown Editor. So I'm going to pull that up and just copy that little snippet. Oh, actually, I think I have it open. I'm going to copy this snippet because it's super simple and super easy, right? Like this is exactly what we're going to be doing. We're going to be watching theme, and we're going to be removing both dark and light classes and then adding whichever one is actually relevant. Now, I of course could make this a little more verbose and tell it to only remove the one that is not the existing value, but it happens so quickly that it doesn't actually affect anything. And so just removing both and then adding back the one that matters is absolutely good enough. So we're going to copy the watch statement here because it's going to be identical. And where should we set that up? I'm thinking that we either set it up in main.js, excuse me, or we set it up in app.view. So I'm going to go ahead and do app.view actually, because I think that makes sense. We already have some other hooks here. And so I'm going to put this above computed just because it seems to be a little less common. And we're going to watch theme. And then theme, I'm going to make a computed property for. And theme is just going to return this.store.state.settings.theme, right? Oops, no semicolons because we're avoiding those now. And then what it should do is on document load, it should set whatever is set in the theme itself, and then when that value changes, like when the cache is loaded, for instance, it's going to update that value. And so there might be a little hiccup we have to work around, which I can deal with here in a bit. But for now, let's go ahead and test this out and just check and see whether or not the body tag is being updated with the proper classes. So if we open our console back up and go to elements and we look at body, refresh the page, what do we see? Nothing's happening. How interesting. So why would that be? So watch is not actually called. That's one issue. Right. That's what I did. So in the demo, what I did was I applied dark as a default because watch is only called when the value changes. It's not called upon first run, which that's fine. That's what we actually want to happen. There's no reason to do something else. So what that means is our default, what I did in View Markdown Editor here, just keep coming back to this example. If you look at public index.html, you can see that I just added class equals dark as a default on the body tag, which is exactly what we're going to do in Octo. The same thing. So we're going to go into public index.html, and on the body tag here, we're just going to add one more class, dark. Perfect. So there we go. Now you can see we've got dark in the class list here on body, and if we go in and we click on light, boom, you can see that dark got updated to light. We can just keep switching back and forth here. So dark, light. So now our theme is toggleable, and we are adding a class to the body tag, which is going to allow us to write some CSS that only applies to either the dark theme or the light theme. And this is just going to be very basic CSS. Because this class is applied at the body level, we'll be able to style any element, including the body itself. So the simplest way I'd like to test this out is if we go, actually, let me check. Let me make sure this works on page refresh. Yeah, so there is a slight delay where it's going to be like dark and then update to light. So we'll have to fix that. Luckily, I already have an idea of how we can do that. But we'll tackle that once we get to it. Okay, so it's getting a little dry. It's been a while since I've talked this much, I'd say. Let's go ahead and change a little bit of that default CSS. So if we go into app.view here, we can see that by default, the background color is just set on the body. It's not set on the body with a class of dark, right? So what we'll say is, let's do this. Let's pull the the theme styling into its own thing, and we'll say body.dark background color of 111. Body.light, so when the body has a light, the light class on it, we'll say background color. Let's see, we'll do EEE. Look at that. Excellent. So you can see it has the light theme here, and the background color is what we set it as. If we click on dark, it changes back to our default dark theme here. So that's really like essentially what it's going to take to actually write out this light theme. Is we just need to go in and rewrite our styles so that anything theme based is in its own style, and all of our dark colors will be defined under body.dark, or we could just say .dark, like we don't need the extra specificity here. And then when we want to change something else, right, like we're just going to nest it under these top level classes. So let me just grab one more just to show you what I mean by that. So we've got A, and the color is a light gray. I don't know if we have, yeah, right here. So see this link? That link's pretty hard to read. Actually, the text itself is pretty hard to read. Let's see. Where's that set? I guess I don't set it on the body for some reason. Let's find out. We've got color. Interesting. I wonder where I set the font color. I honestly don't even remember. Let's take a look at index.html. Okay, yeah, it's not in here. I guess I could just inspect real quick and find out. So we'll go into computed, color, Bootstrap. Oh, right. So I'm using a dark theme on top of the Bootstrap theme. I'm not just using raw Bootstrap. So it has some implicit styling that matches dark already. I kind of forgot about that. So there's so much customization on top of this Bootstrap theme that I actually think that eventually I'm going to just write my own Bootstrap theme. I'll write a light theme and I'll write a dark theme, and then both of them will be very easy to swap between because they will actually be fully separate CSS scripts. But yeah, but until we get that far, you know, the first step is going to be writing the actual light theme. So what I'm going to do is then I'm just going to add a color on the body class. So I'm going to close this because we kind of see what's going on with the class switching, so we know how this mechanism works. And instead, what I'm going to say is on .dark, you know, the background color is customized, but on light, we need to not just set the background color, but we also need to set the color itself. So we're going to say, we'll just flip it. How's that sound? So 111. Look at that. Quite a bit more readable now. And then we've got anchor tags. And so the way that the nesting works, which I kind of mentioned, I'm going to try to keep the theme stuff together. So I'm going to start moving some things around. Same goes for this. Let's move you up here out of the way. And so for like anchors, for example, for links, this makes sense. But what we're going to do instead is we're going to say on .dark, this is the color, but on .light A and .light A colon hover, the color is going to be, again, we want something a little bit darker. So we'll say like, I don't know, 333. I'm just kind of playing around with these ideas right now until we find something that makes sense. Now, we'll probably want to do something to make that stand out a bit more. It's not standing out quite as much as the dark theme does, right? But we're working on it, so we'll see how that goes. It also has an underline, which is interesting, because... I wonder why that's not visible here, but it is on the light theme. Come back to that in a moment as well. Oh, it's the text decoration none. Oh, because I set the specificity here, it's only on dark. So really we should have, just to keep concerns separate, up here we should have A colon hover, and that should include text decoration none. That way we don't have the underline on either of them. I'm starting a new pattern here where I have the different classes on different lines to make it a little just easier to indicate what's what classes are affected, or what selectors are affected, I should say. Okay, there we go. Now there's not an underline here. And then, yeah, again, we need to figure out what values are going to make the most sense, but, you know, something that stands out a little bit more than that. Maybe we'll use like a non-grayscale color, but I'm not sure yet. For now, though, I'm just going to go ahead and make it like 444. Yeah, that stands out okay. Again, maybe not as much as like on the dark theme, but that's okay. We'll come back to it. So we've got a few other things that we change, obviously, but you can see how we're approaching this now, and you can see how we're going to continue to just kind of selectively go through and change things like change the font colors, change the background colors, etc., using these dark and light CSS classes as top-level selectors, like we're doing here. So because we're at the hour mark and because I'm not used to talking quite as much, I think I'm gonna do a short little break, just like a few minutes, like 3 to 5 minutes or something. I'm gonna stretch my legs, get a drink, give my throat a rest just for a minute, and then we'll come back and we'll really start ticking through each of these individual styles that need to be updated and start getting this light theme built out. So I don't have a break command, but I'll just say, you know, hang out. Feel free to post any questions you have as you're here. I will keep the music playing while I'm gone, and I'll be back in just a few minutes. Okay, I am back, and I decided to stand my desk up because legs were not liking sitting for that long, not for most of the day. But let's see. So just recap where we're at real fast. Give me a second. Check a couple things. Okay, right. So we've kind of covered like the mechanisms for how you can even support the ability to toggle between a light and a dark theme for the most part. Oh, hey Tiff. I appreciate the wave. And now that we've covered the mechanisms, we're just going to cover the stylistic pieces of kind of testing out these different themes that are going to be applied. So what does that mean? It means we need to figure out the different types of text colors that contrast well with a really light background. We need to... Oh, you know, I just realized something. Wait, no, we'll cover this. Sorry, my brain just kind of scattering for a moment there. But we need to figure out the different sort of font colors that contrast well for the lighter backgrounds. We need to figure out the background colors that work well with reading. You know, I mean, this app is about readability. So we want to make sure that we can actually, that our eyes actually adjust fairly well to it. And yeah, I mean, that's going to be it, right? We're going to be tweaking some CSS here. So if you enjoy CSS, I hope that you'll enjoy this as well. Move my mic a little bit. It's kind of right in my eye line here. Okay. So this is also going to be kind of an experimental light theme. So, I mean, it's going to be tweaking, I'm sure. I'm sure as I start using it, which I will switch to using it for quite some time just to make sure everything seems solid to me. I think the idea here is that we're going to get like an sort of MVP light theme out there, and then we'll continue working on it going forward. So let's see. Let's go ahead. We need to work through like colors and background colors. There's quite a bit in here. There's going to be some things that we're going to have to override that we haven't had to yet because the Bootstrap theme we were using was a dark theme already. But I'm hoping it won't be too bad. So let's start out, instead of starting with the settings here, let's go to the editor. Oh, the cursor is pretty light. I didn't realize that. We're gonna have to, I'm gonna have to fix that in the View Markdown editor package, I'm sure. But let's go ahead and look at our recent docs and pull this doc up, right? So this looks all right. There's definitely some contrast issues, which again, some of these are gonna have to do with the actual View Markdown editor library itself. We're gonna have to come back and kind of update that to add a bit more support for the light background. I'm trying to think, what color did I use here? Maybe I'll just copy that. Well, that's not gonna be quite as helpful because I think the light color that we have makes sense. And honestly, I might use this background color here for our sidebar. We still want that contrast on the sidebar. So let's go ahead and add the sidebar. Oops. Okay. Context banner. Oh yeah, we got that as well. Let me make sure we don't forget to update that. Okay. So one thing at a time, right? Let's go ahead and get that sidebar and see what we're working with. The left sidebar, that's right. We override some key colors, but the actual color for the sidebar, I guess, is going to be, where is that set? That must be set in, maybe that's set in app.view. No, it's not an app.view. I might have actually been using some special CSS classes that I created for this, so I don't see anything set on the top level here. Like I created some called like BG dark or BG darker. Yeah, see, and we're gonna have to update those as well, but that's okay. Let's look at the content maybe. Close. So it's dashboard then is where we actually contain the left and right sidebars. I still don't. Sidebar BG darker. Okay, so it actually is using the darker. So interesting. This is actually going to be fairly easy to override because anywhere we're using the darker now, we'll just be able to say on a dark theme, darker means very dark. On the light theme, darker means just a little bit darker. So the name actually isn't bad. What is happening here? My editor's like freaking out. What we're going to say is something like, you know, .dark, .bg darker is that. .light, .bg darker is whatever we want it to be, right? So we're going to make it background color. What did I use? Actually, I really did like that color that I used in the View Markdown Editor demo, but I don't remember what color I used. So let's take a look in component, or no, app.view. So on light, the editor background color is E. Okay. Try that out. Whoa. That can't be right. Or maybe I did a pure white background, so the contrast just looks different here. Find out though. No, that's totally it. Okay, so our background is just quite a bit darker. So we'll go even darker than EEE. Maybe DDD instead. That's a little better. Not too bad. Okay, so pretty readable. We obviously need to fix our search. Our shortcuts are not terrible. We'll have to fix the color differences there as well. Our buttons are all wrong. Obviously, that's wrong. This is wrong. Each of those are wrong. But for the most part, it's actually looking like pretty okay. Oh, this is odd. Why is our background white here? Background image freaking out. Huh, that's not good. I wonder if I accidentally introduced a non-transparent background for editor. Hold up. First, I just wanted to look for this because I know that I did assign it a special CSS class here, so. Odd. Let's see. Did I introduce a non-transparent background? I don't remember doing that. Or I guess I have Atom open, so we'll go ahead and take a look there. See, there is definitely one applied here, but it would have to be, the Markdown editor component is what's exported, so it would have to be here. Backgrounds are specified. See anything that would, hang on, selected, cursor. Oh, okay, something odd's happening. I need to figure out where this this background's coming from. I must have done something in here, I guess. So I see. Closer. Here we go. Dot light. Oh. Oh, Oh, interesting. Okay, so here's the problem, is that the light class is also being applied to the editor because that's what I called it inside the editor component. And so that class is actually being exposed, and our call of .light is our CSS scope is bleeding. Hey, Hannah. I don't know if you just posted that, but I just saw your wave as well. Drink real fast here. So the problem here is that the CSS that I have applied at the top level, so I'm adding a class called dark or light to the body tag, the container of content, but that same class is actually applied to the view markdown editor component internally, but it's being exposed because classes aren't stripped when that gets compiled. They're just sort of buried behind masked code. So what I need to do to fix it is just to say at least for now, I should definitely change the class names to be a little more obscure so that this kind of thing doesn't happen, because this could be a problem for more than just my app. This could be a problem for other apps as well if someone decides to use that. But what that means is I need to, at the very least for Octo, go in here and say, instead of dark and light, background colors body.dark and body.light, so that we maintain our transparent background here. Octo is good. So what we've been working on, I don't know if you've been hanging out or not, but if you haven't, we've been working on this. So we're adding the ability to change between a dark theme, which is Octo's default, like Octo was built with a dark theme, and we're adding a light theme. So you're gonna have the ability to change to a light theme, and as you can see, it's like partially working, but there's definitely some work left still, like button colors and fonts and all that need to change when we choose a light theme. But yeah, adding the light theme, that's what we've been working on. Also, I have this handy little command now for anyone who's interested in what Octo is, if you're unfamiliar. And it gives you a little description and links out to the app. Okay, so I fixed that background issue with the editor. Excellent. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna need to do some like some fixing of like the contrast difference here on the code for sure. It could make the light theme just a little bit darker, but in my opinion, that's kind of the wrong approach, because like I feel like this is a pretty solid like brightness level in terms of like the overall like background and application. The text contrast is good, so I'm not really feeling like I should make it darker just to support this. I think that we just need to make the colors a little more bold inside of the view markdown editor component, but like I said, we'll come back to that. One thing I can definitely help with is this octopus standing out right now. The Octo logo is definitely a bit more pronounced than it needs to be. So let me go ahead and see if I can fix that. I can't remember if I'm passing that style in or if it's being done at like the SVG level. So I want to say that's in the content. Damn, okay, so it's a background SVG, interesting. So what that means, oh, okay, never mind. I could definitely set it here. So what I can say is I can just create another SVG with a different color. So I can just duplicate it. So under assets, octopus transparent, all we need to do is come in here and say a color somewhere. No? Oh yeah, right here. Why does it say it can't find anything? Hashtag. There we go. So it's just that one color. So we just need to change that to better reflect. And that's going to be the same as our sidebar color, I believe. I believe that's what the 050505 is. It's the same as our sidebar color. So I'm going to make it, what was it, like DDD or something. Let's just take a, whoa, okay. Oh, it's back there. Okay, so it's a little hard to see, but that's not a big deal. I mean, it's better to have it a little less obvious than to have it too obvious. So, is that the same color that I'm using on the sidebar? I feel like it is. That was BG darker, right? No, yeah. Okay. Yep, and it was the same color there too. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say let's leave it. I don't think the contrast needs to be too high. I'd rather it just be extra readable here. So what we're gonna do is in that SVG, instead of actually changing this one, we're just going to duplicate it. Call this one light, and we'll call this one dark. Right, so we've got dark and we've got light, and then all I need to do is go find any references we have to this. Should just be one place, but just check in case. Nice, and then we'll say dark. We'll have dark, and then light. Actually, duplicate this a couple of times for a couple of reasons. So we'll say light will point to light, and then the background size itself will be in a non-themed CSS declaration here. So now it should change along with our actual setting. Why is that messed up? Huh, our logo's massive now for some reason, and I feel like that has to do with the logo changing. So maybe I'll have to just clarify this in each of those. Seems kind of odd, but I'd rather be safe. Oh, I see what it is. So background size has to be declared after the background definition, or it's going to use like the default size because there's kind of like an implicit declaration of image size. But we're good now. So it's getting a little bit closer. We've got that background image looking a little bit better. And if we go into our settings here, you can see dark mode. You can see the octopus in the background there. Light mode, you can just faintly see it in the background there as well. So, or faintly for me, maybe on your monitor you have a bit better contrast, but for me it's pretty hard to see it actually. Yeah, it's looking all right. Thanks, Hannah. Yeah, it's been something that's been kind of like on the project board for a while now, and I finally just got around to working on it. So I'm excited. I'm excited to polish up the light mode and make it available for people, because there have been a few people that have asked for it. And one of the cool features just with technology is like it won't just have a light mode and a dark mode, but it's also going to be auto adaptive. So the idea is that on your own system, whether that's like Mac or Windows or what have you, you can often declare like a system level theme. And so like apps will automatically be dark mode or light mode based on that. And I plan to do the same thing here. So the theme for Octo will be based by default on your system theme, but you'll be able to override it and say light or dark if you'd like to. Excuse me. Okay, so the buttons need to be fixed. So those are two different buttons I just realized, because for some reason one of them is not oh, this is a link, so the color is changing. That's weird. I'll have to come back to that as well. Lots of little to-dos still that we're discovering with this whole light dark theme thing. The hover color needs change. That okay. Let's go ahead and pop back into app.view and start getting a clearer picture of the styles that we have that we need to change and update. So I'm gonna close content. We're gonna close everything, and then we'll just open up app.view again. And I'm gonna start doing some separation here. So I'm gonna try to move everything that uses like a theme color into its own sort of style block so that we can fix that. So even this. So we're going to go ahead and copy this down here. And we're going to move color declaration. Boom. What else? We've got these colors. Anything that's color based, I'm going to move into its own CSS. There we go. And we'll put it down here by itself just to kind of group it all together and make it easier to update all this. So we've got item divider. Okay. What else we have? Transparent, that's a utility, so that's fine. Horizontal rules. What else? We've got the notification itself. That might not need to change, but I'll go ahead and just separate it just in case. Oops, wrong buttons here. Good, inherit is fine. Seamless. This is a color only. We'll do duplication here. This will definitely, it's a little bit of a somewhat tedious process now to move all of these, but it's going to help a lot when it comes to like tweaking them once we start editing the themes, because we'll be pairing them up with both a dark mode and a light mode, and having them all kind of organized together will be super helpful for that. That needs moved. Okay, so this actually has some styling applied inside the background image definition. So I'm going to go ahead and see. Those are all colors, images. All of these actually are style related. I don't think there's any non-style. Button toggle. Let's move this big block first. That's all styling, yep. So move that. We'll separate the other pieces. Oh, I think I missed that too, man. Card. Yeah, I did skip a few. Whoops. There we go. Careful going through this time. Okay, so now these, we're gonna have to break them up, unfortunately. That's try to do this in a graceful sort of manner here. So what we're gonna do is we're going to say background color can be by itself, sure. This one we're gonna rewrite a little bit, and we're going to say, I think I can just say border solid and then leave the color alone. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna say border color, and then up here we're just gonna say the size and say it's solid, but I'm not gonna specify a color. I think that's sufficient. And then down here we'll remove that and remove that. So now we've separated those two. And then we'll do the same thing for these. So box shadow, none. Good. Some of these styles honestly need updated because there's a bit that we could probably go without now, but trying to like just tackle one little problem at a time here. Okay. Excellent. Getting closer. So we've got some colors here on the context stuff. That. I'm gonna go ahead and change the, yeah, any of that actually. Let me just get rid of it. Don't need the radius, just the colors are all we really want. So and then here we're just gonna get rid of those same things. Perfect. Split. And good. Context tag. It looks like the only thing we really need is that. It'll be simple. Banner. Oh, look at that. And then the last thing right above us is our the themes that we've already done. So we're just about there. Excellent, because this part is super interesting. So say border, oh, border bottom. Instead we'll say border bottom color. And then up here, drop this. We'll change this to just say border bottom without a color, and drop that. Cool. Excellent. And I'm gonna go ahead and actually grab this with these. All right, I don't need any. These are all just theme pieces. So yep, I'm gonna go ahead and grab that. Bring it down. Now we can do our final final work on theming. Oh, forward, whoops. Okay, so we've got body background colors for dark and light. We've got link colors for dark and light. Now we've got things like our context banner. So let's go ahead and just pop that open so you can see up here. I'll just select a tag so you can see, and then we'll go back to the editor here. So you can see in dark mode what the context bar is pretty readable. It fits in, it's nice and dark, and you can actually read the tag there. Light mode, not the case. So it looks like color specification will be a big piece. What else? We've got background color of the bar itself. And I think that matched. I'm trying to think of what that actually, well, I can just test it. That matches, yeah, it matches the text area. So that means we're going to be using DDD. Nice, that looks good. We're going to be changing the border bottom to match. What did we match with that? Probably the, or no, DDD wasn't the right one. I think it was, there we go, that's better. And I think the border color is going to be ADD. Okay, nice. Let me change these back real fast. Whoops. Because what I meant to do was duplicate this. And say dot dark and dot light. So for light, we'll say EEE. Dark, we'll say, and then we'll also say the darker part. And the actual text color is going to be, what do we go? 444. Whoops. That changed part. Whoops. I reset the context. Oh, that's not updating. So, oh, that's the tag itself, huh? So the background color will need to be updated. Maybe we'll go with C's instead of D's for the background color. It's just a little more obvious. Bottom. Oh, no, that's too dark. I lied. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. So actually never mind. The color is good. We don't need the color to be lighter or darker. That's pretty readable now that I updated the tag itself to be a darker background. So let's see. Dark theme. Oh, well, I apparently did that wrong. Right, because I did the tag here. So fix that. And dot light. And one thing you might notice here is that instead of separating it into having like two giant sections where you have a big section of all the dark theme stuff and a big section of all the light theme stuff, I'm making it so that every element has a little group of like its dark and light version, because it just makes it a little easier when you need to tweak one thing for both themes if they're both in the same place. Okay, so that looks good and that looks good. Nice. Yeah, that's looking better, I'd say. I need to figure out how I want to change the close. That's probably the next thing. Yep. So dot dark. We'll duplicate this for a light. And same thing. We're gonna probably make the background color this, and the color itself. The color. That's the icon. Probably gonna make it something like. Find out here in a sec. What that's supposed to represent. Oh, it's the actual little X piece. So, hang on. So we actually want this inverted from how it normally is, I think. So we want this to be 444. This to be. Find out how that looks. Yeah, that's closer. Okay, so like a lean. Looks pretty good. Like the background though doesn't need to be that off. It seems like the color's a little bit off to me, and I'm trying to figure out why. No, I use the text color as the border, and I use the background oh, that needs to be a different color. So the background color actually needs to be, what's that background? 111? Just so odd. I'm just so used to looking at the dark theme of Octo. It's so weird looking at a lighter version of it. Close, color. Oh, well, yeah, that's not correct. I changed the wrong thing. See, I needed background to be D, and the color to be E, I think. Close. There we go. That's better. Sorry, those tiny little things just bug me so much. So that looks good. Now dark and light mode look pretty much the same inverted here. So excellent. I'm liking that. That's looking better. What else do we need? So we've got the context bar done and figured out. Let's keep moving through the list here. Now that we kind of organized everything, it shouldn't be too bad to get it working. So we've got the primary buttons, which appear to be some... I don't think I'm using primary buttons anywhere anymore. They're like a bluish color. I know I'm using them for the notifications. Let's force the notification to show up. Let's see, none. Convert that. Boom. Okay, so, well, the card itself is the wrong color, so that's not helpful. I need to fix that. We'll come back to that. Excellent. Way down here somewhere. Okay. Let's get past the buttons. We'll tackle those last, actually, because some of them are going to be on backgrounds that just make it too difficult to tell right now. So, cards. Okay, so this is good. This is something like the notification and also things like the list view, right? So if we go into the list view here, the card, we need to fix that for sure. So card background colors, for dark, that looks good. But for light, we're going to want the background color to be... what is this? The one where we do the same as the sidebar, I think? That's okay. And then the actual text color we'll have to update as well to be 444, right? So. Oh, that's not working. Uh-oh. Oh no! Hype man. Quit spamming. No, I'm just kidding. I need to fix Nightbot apparently because it's yeah. Nice. Yeah, I love dark mode myself, but I'm excited to have the option of swapping between them for sure. I mean, like I've already said probably at least 12 times during this one stream, like I built Octo with the dark mode only for a specific reason. Cater to those night owls like myself. Okay, so I gotta figure out, it's probably the pre, which is down. So, oh, I must not have done this yet. So let's go ahead and inspect this. I'm guessing the pre tag is like overriding the color here. I do see a color definition, but that's actually overridden, but I don't see another color definition. We need to be shouting in caps. I mean, that definitely needs to be fixed. Color comes from Bootstrap, so it comes from the dark theme again, and it is applied to pre is set to inherit. Oh, inherit from what though? Hang on, let's figure that out. Document. Ah, okay, so it's set on the document itself. Interesting. So pre is actually just, that's fine. The issue here is that we have documents specifying text color for some reason, which I don't really like. So let's actually fix that. Let's do in document color pure white. Let's get rid of that and see what happens. See what dark mode looks like now. That looks pretty good. All the text looks a little bit lighter, so I think what I'm going to end up having to do is app wide. I'm going to have to increase the font weight a little bit, because on dark mode for some reason the text looks like a little bit thicker, and that's a contrast issue, so it actually makes sense, but I'm gonna have to fix that because some of the font looks just super thin with the light mode now. But let's take a look at this list. So whoops, wrong one. I meant to change it to dark and see. Yeah, that looks fine. I don't know why I had an explicit color set. Was the doc the parent? Yeah, the doc was. So That looks good. I mean, I don't know why I had it set to like pure white as the font color. I normally use like an off-white anyway when you're like dealing with a dark theme because it's just a little bit softer. The contrast isn't huge. So I'm gonna leave it like that. I'm just gonna keep that color removed and now we don't even have to worry about it. So if we go back to the light theme now and then go back to the list view, like that looks pretty good. Like again, the font weight is a little off to me. Like I feel like that text needs to be a little heavier. Just makes it a little harder to read when it's this thin. Probably especially for you on the actual stream, but even me looking at it right here, like that's just a little bit too light, too thin. And it's not the color that's doing it, it's the contrast of having a light background. So I wonder what font weights I have available actually. Oh, that's not helpful. If I go into index.html here, I'm pulling in the fonts from Mozilla. I'm pulling Fira directly, so I'm gonna assume that this is like, is that even minified? It's gonna be funny if it's not. Wow. But I do have some different weights available. I'm not really sure. Looks like I've got Fira Sans, all kinds of different weights available. 200, 100, 200, 300, 400, 5, 6. I wonder what weight I'm using right now by default, because I'll totally just swap it. Let's go body tag, font, weight, 400, which is the default. So this is actually gonna be a fairly simple fix for the light theme. We're just gonna bump the weight up a little bit. We're gonna bump the weight up to 500. We'll see, hopefully that doesn't make it too bold, but I think it'll be okay. So body.light, we'll say font weight 500. Okay, so it definitely made a difference on the navigation, I can tell. But it still looks pretty thin on here, and I wonder if there's some more styles. No, the font weight is 500 there as well. Why does it look so thin? The color looks good, I think. Oh, the font size is a bit smaller. That would definitely affect it some. So we'll leave it. I'm gonna leave it alone for now. I might play with the weight later, but that was I kind of wanted something in between, and that's kind of that was looking a little too bold anyway. Okay, this looks pretty good. We need to fix the button color as well, I can tell. And I'm not sure if document has its own styles applied there too. It looks like there's no more colors applied, so that's good. I'm gonna close this then. So let's keep going. We're gonna come back to the button, so that won't be an issue here in a little bit. We just did cards, which is both the document, but now we can actually test the notification as well, right? So if I go back here and I just negate this, we'll show our notification modal. Oh yeah, and it does have a pretty substantial border around it, which is actually a box shadow. And we'll want to fix that. Also, that spacing is off. I'm gonna have to fix that as well. But the blue actually doesn't look too bad on the light background, so I might leave that. It's just the secondary buttons need to be quite a bit lighter. Like they're just very dark right now. So let's leave that open and let's go ahead and start toying around with the button colors. All right, so primary is the blue. Like I said, the blue actually doesn't look bad, so I'm gonna leave it like that. And then having the white text on it looks still looks good. Let's go ahead and look at secondary, which is the very dark color. So what I'm gonna do is, first of all, I'm gonna change the way these are laid out because it becomes a little more clear where I need to add these new dark and light colors. So dot dark. And we're just going to copy this whole block and change dark on all these places at once to light. Okay, so background color, for light is going to be, what do we have, the like D's? Or no, this is for the button. We don't want it to be that light. We want it to be a little bit darker, so that's not too bad, but we might want slightly more contrast. Kind of doing whole steps at a time here. Man, I don't know. Maybe I do want C's and I just need to change the font color to be something a little bit darker now. So we'll do, what was our color before? 1. No, I was doing 4s, that's right. That's not too bad, actually. I kind of like the looks of that. Anna. I'm thrilled that you just changed all those darks to light at the same time. Yeah, that's a nifty little shortcut on the editor that I haven't really been using, but you can just like extend your cursor to a few things at once and jump around. So, makes it pretty awesome if you want to do something cool like, you know, another class. Whoops. But it's really useful when you need to move, like 4 lines isn't bad, which is why I wrote dark out individually on all these. I just wasn't really thinking about it. But if there's like 10 lines, I need to change the same exact thing on all of them, then I typically do the multi-line edits at a time. Just because it just saves so much time. But yeah, good catch on that. Okay, so this is looking good. Our buttons are looking good. I think the card... Was it the card? Notification. Okay, so specifically on notifications, I have this dark box shadow. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to... Oh, the color is... This one I could have separated this, but for now I'm just going to do this because it's easier. I'm going to say .dark and .light. And we obviously know the dark looks good. And so all we're going to do for light is change it to be... color I want. No, I wanted, what did I have that color as? I think I had it the same as the background actually, which would just be, maybe that is D. No, the background is the bright one, so that's like all E's, right? Looking at something odd is going on. Hang on a second. There's like a border or something on here I haven't noticed before. No, there's not a border. Wait. That's the body. That's not even the right thing. Here we go. Oh, there is a border. No, there's a border radius. What about a border color? Is there one on the... Tell, honestly, on the card. So let's go ahead and just say card up here. Border none. There we go. That was interesting. I didn't even realize there was a border on those because of the dark theme. It wasn't even obvious. So that looks good though. So now we've got our floating notification here. Update is available. Refresh the app to apply. Refresh now or refresh later. Okay. Yeah, those buttons look good. Starting to come together a bit, starting to actually be readable. So one thing, we've got these we've got the hover effects. Oh, I haven't done all of them yet. We still have links and other things that need fixed. So yeah, let's scroll back down and pick up where we left off. So we did the secondaries. We've got the button toggles still. So we need to go into the edit here. So all of these, they're going to be very similar. Okay, and now that I'm actually thinking about it, oh, too far. Okay. And then what are we going to do? We're going to change the background color on the toggles. I mean, these are going to be the same as the secondary, honestly. So we're going to say CCC, and probably need to change the text color too. Why is there a border color? Oh, let's see what we're looking at here. Interesting. I forgot there was a border on these as well. Huh. And then we are going to need to do the text color. So let's go ahead and say color. On Earth? I'm not inheriting the color. Must be being overridden. Oh, I'm not using... Bootstrap uses these important flags, which means in order to override them, you often have to use the important flags as well. There's also different levels of specificity, but a lot of their default themes use important, which is a little unfortunate. Okay, that looks pretty good. That looks good. The border is unnecessary though, so I'm gonna just say border. I'm tempted to just say border none, honestly. So let me go ahead and go up to button toggle above. Oh, I see now. Okay, so we'll just say border. Yeah, that's better. There's not much of a need for it, honestly, so. Okay, those are looking good. The text on this one is off, which is odd. Custom. Oh, because it's disabled. Okay, that actually makes sense. Never mind. We don't want the text to be on there. See, if I click generate keys, generate these keys, and now it's toggleable. So that actually looks okay. There's some other like stylistic things that are off, but we'll just move on for now. Export documents looks good. Generate keys. Each of these are starting to look pretty solid now. We still have the hover problems, but I'll come back to those. Yeah, see this one, when it's disabled, the checkbox is the wrong color as well. Fix that. So this just has to do with like where I've done some overrides of styles and where I just missed some overrides because the default dark theme just took care of it for me. So let's see, we've got, what is this? This is the control. Honestly, it looks pretty solid even on the like light theme. I might not have to mess with that except for that one that's disabled here. Try to specifically inspect that checkbox itself. Where would this be? It's not the span, it's not the input, it's this, I want to say. We don't see a before element. Oh, here's the before element. Okay, so it was on the span. And the before element says that the background color if I could see this. Yeah, disabled, checked. Okay. I'm just gonna have to add a style for that. Disabled, checked. Actually, hang on. Do I? Oh, I have it already. There we go. Never mind. I'm the one who made that. That makes sense. So all I need to do. So this is the custom checkbox. Yeah, the background and border color looks good on both dark and light. So I'm just gonna leave that for now. But on here, I am going to duplicate this and say dot dark, dot light. And on light, we're gonna do, for disabled, I don't know, what sounds good? 4 is fairly dark, it looks like, so we want something a little bit lighter than that. If we do inherit, maybe? No. What's the default? like a bluish color. There we go. That's not bad. So that way for disabled buttons, as you can see, that's interesting. That shouldn't be doing that. I also need to fix that. Is that not saving? Oh, I think I have this set so it only saves if the, I'll have to come back and fix that. But I don't think it allows me to erase the keys. I need to add that functionality, so. I mean, yeah, this is looking pretty good. The buttons look good. The color contrast in them looks pretty good. It all looks reasonable. The fact that it's disabled makes sense, that the text is quite a bit lighter. So like you can't even, like you can click it, but it doesn't do anything. So excellent. Okay, that's really not too bad. So what do we have left? We have the logo contrast is very obvious. We have the hover colors here. Let's see what else we have. Yeah, the document, that looks pretty solid. Again, the theme of the actual editor itself I'm going to have to work on because that's in the view markdown editor component itself, but we'll come back to that. So I'm thinking, I'm trying to look and see what time it is here. So we've been going for about 2 hours. I'm going to push through. I'm not going to do a break because I'm probably going to be calling it fairly soon. Just being my first stream back in a while, so we'll see what we can get done here in the next like 15 to 20 minutes or so, and then probably be hopping off then. So this has been good though. We're getting really close, so I mean, even if we don't get this fully done, I imagine I'll probably be able to get this done and out by the end of the week or this weekend or something. Okay, so yeah, let's fix that. Some of the like last big outstanding things. Just keep going down this. So yeah, the checks and stuff we actually didn't even need to change, funny enough. So we'll skip all of that. Same goes for the custom radio and custom checkboxes were pretty solid. Card, we already separated dark and light here. Icon wrapper. Excuse me. So icon wrapper. What is icon wrapper? Oh, this is mobile. Okay, so actually we do need to test that out. Let's take a look. I need to fix that and get it out of the way. Sick. Okay, so oh yeah, and all of our floating nav stuff needs fixed as well. So cool. That's all right. We can fix all of that together. So is that in the nav bar maybe? Yeah, so I added a custom box shadow specifically for the mobile nav bar. So I'm going to say .dark. We're going to go ahead and just, for now we'll leave it in here. We're going to duplicate it for light. And we're going to say that the color is EEE. There we go. That looks good. The whole idea is just so that when it flows over the content, you can kind of see, it's probably hard to see on the stream, but it clips the text around the button, which just gives almost like a little buffer that makes it easy to see where the button is so that it doesn't align with the background text. But yeah, it looks pretty good. So looking at tags, the color is definitely off on those as well. Oh, sorry, and then these, that looks wrong. Wrong. Those look like they're the wrong size. That's weird. Let me go ahead and do. Is this really that? I feel like I made those larger, but I guess I'm just completely wrong. So that's fine as long as they're right. So, but yeah, so this little background bubble, this is what this little special color is for that I was looking at over in app.view now. Where were we? Icon wrapper here. And it's a kind of a neutral color, but I would like to change it, I think. What did we do for the, we did C's for the button, so I'm probably gonna do the same here and just map it, or match it there. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. So I'll separate this out for dark and light. We'll say dot dark, and then dot light. We'll do C's here, so just a little lighter gray. Matches a bit better. The text color is all fine. I don't think we need to mess with that. It says it's 111. It's pretty dark. Is that? We've been doing 4s. A little bit lighter there, which I think sounds good. So we've got item. I'm not sure what item is in relation to, but that's also a fairly, so A is a fairly neutral color. It's like almost halfway between the spectrum of 0 and F, because like these colors use hexadecimal, which just means that they use a base 16 number system to specify like the least amount of color or the most amount of color. And so, you know, the least amount of color, all zeros, is straight black, and then the most amount of color, all Fs, is straight white. And you can have anything between 0, 0 and FF, which adds up to a total of 256 possible values. And then you have that for each color spectrum, so you've got red, green, and blue. And so really, triple A's is a shorthand for 6 A's, because it's double A is the value that we're doing here. For red, double A for green, and then double A for blue. Okay, we've got, and that's looking pretty solid. Let's look at tags again. Tags need fixed. I don't know what item this is. From .tag directly. Okay, so tags define their own colors as well. So we're finding like some different areas. Tag. Oh, it must be in the, no. Says it's coming from tag, the class, but I don't know where it's actually coming from. It says it's A's. Tag list, huh? Oh, interesting. I didn't even realize this was still in here. Let's remove that and see what happens. So that looks good, but why did that change? Has that been that color? That's odd. So that looks pretty good. We'll have to come back though and see what's up with the dark theme. So let's go ahead and close this out. Go into editor settings, and we'll click on dark here. So, oh, that's weird. What's happening? Why is that there? Why is that color there? That's super weird. Okay. Well, nonetheless, it looks like tags look fine as far as I can tell. Oh, and the hover color. Oh, right, this is dark mode, so that looks okay. Look fine here too. So go back into mobile. Yeah, a lot of progress. Thanks. It has been quite a bit in this one stream here. It's been fun. I mean, some parts have been fun. Some parts have been just a little bit tedious. It's just a little. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time, you know, to work through and figure out what actually looks right. I mean, that's a lot of what this is. It's not even the coding portion. The coding portion is fairly straightforward. It's just observing and thinking about, you know, what kind of colors would contrast with other colors. And this is the design part of web design, or a part of design, which is a part of web design, but I enjoy it. I mean, that's looking good. So I'm going to say, let's go into settings. Pretty solid. Let's look at something else. Context. Oh, it still has that dark background, but that's actually not too bad anyway for right now. What else do we have? We've got document list. Looks pretty good. Looks like our color is still messed up on the button here. from? They're coming from the template itself, so yeah, that actually makes sense. Okay. Fix the rest of these little things. I keep kind of getting jumbled around here. So item hover. Oh, okay. So these are actually the things in the sidebar here. These are item classes, so kind of makes sense. I need to figure out what the hell's up with that. Why are those circles holding their color? So really, icon wrapper should only have a color on when it's applied, and it should only be applied when it's when we're on mobile, because otherwise icon wrapper shrinks and it's pretty much like unused. So I think this should really say something like .dark. What's the? Let me take a look here. There's a class that gets applied at the top level. Class that gets applied somewhere that tells us, yeah, the screen size here. So XS. So really, it should only be applied on mobile. So on MD plus, it should only be. Yeah, on MD plus. Okay, nice. Sorry, it took me a second to like remember how I set up the styling classes, but yeah. So on MD plus, we should be able to, or we should be able to use that tag. So I should be able to say something like .dark, icon wrapper this, .light, icon wrapper this, and then specify the MD plus style as well. I don't know how I was doing this before, but I would imagine I'd do something like this. Where I say .dark, .md plus icon wrapper. Background color would be transparent, and color just leave alone. And that's, oh, I need to do the same for .light. So I'd say .light, .md plus, background color, transparent. Yeah, look, okay, now they're transparent. Perfect on desktop, which is what we want, because the thing is on mobile, I give them these nice little circles just around them just to kind of pop them out a bit more. But on desktop, it's kind of like not useful because they're a lot smaller and they're off to the side. On mobile, it's more like front and center in the nav bar. So excellent. So that looks good. So we have them on mobile. We don't have them on desktop, which is what I would want. And then what do we need? We need to actually keep going, and item color, good. And then item background color, right? Because background color by default is whatever you tell it, or it inherits it, I mean. So let's do .dark, .item color. I don't know why we're even setting the color, because it should just match the font color. Yeah. Oh wait, we're on light anyway, so let me change this back real fast. And if I say remove this, yeah, nothing changes. So it's really odd that it's like even set. So we're gonna ignore color, I think. And instead, we're going to just change the background color. And you'll see here that we've got a few of these now. Dark. And then we're just going to add the light version. And the background color for light on hover is going to be something pretty simple. I don't know where I came up with that one for the dark, but for this it's going to be probably just really similar to the buttons here, so which was all C's. Yeah, that looks pretty good. You know, it's meant to be subtle. It doesn't need to be super obvious. I mean, it's just like a tiny little indicator of which one you're hovering over. So awesome, that looks good. What do we have left? Notifications are good. Horizontal rules. Background color is A's. Again, that's a fairly neutral color, so I think that's probably going to be fine. Let's check our settings here. Yeah, I mean, the rules are fine. That color looks good to me. Dividers. Same things. Am I even using dividers anywhere anymore? I'm not. That's kind of funny. Let's get rid of that. Save ourselves something here. I think I swapped them out for horizontal rules. I was using them in the menu at one point, but no reason to keep a style that's not being used. Dark, light, and boom. What's this? Simple bar, scroll bar before. Oh yeah, you can't even see the scroll bar. I forgot to do that part. So, what does that mean? That means we need to say on .dark, it looks like that, but on light, duplicate it. On light, what do we want it to be? We want it to be the same thing, but we want it to be dark to like kind of contrast what we're seeing. So instead of 255s, which would be just pure white with a bit of transparency, it's going to be pure black with a bit of transparency. So yeah, that's pretty good, pretty noticeable. You probably can't see very well, so let me try to make it a little more visible here. Oops, wrong thing. You can kind of see on the side here, there's a scroll bar. It's very subtle. Like we could, all the like, everything's like jumping around. There's a problem with zooming for some reason, but I'll fix that at some point. But you can kind of see the scroll bar here. It's just really light. It's not very like obvious. So I could probably make it a little bit darker for this one, maybe like 0.5. Allow a little bit more of the light to come through. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna fix this because that jumping around is driving me crazy, but yeah, you know, just something a little subtle just to indicate that we actually have a scroll bar here. Let me go ahead and do it on the nav as well and make sure that looks okay. Yeah, okay. So that looks pretty good. I'm okay with it. Nice, so that's like most of it. We did all of app.view, so obviously we had a couple of other places that needed updated. We have a few minutes here, so I'm gonna see if we've got time. I might be able to change these last couple of tiny little things. We've got context. Let's go ahead and take a look at context real quick. Boom. We've got this like background. What is this? Drop down item hover not active. I just say inherit. What does that look like? Oh, that's not right. Selected, not active. Huh. Oh, because of the dark theme, that's right. Okay, well that makes sense. So let me revert that there. And I think it's just drop down item. I think that's what we're dealing with here or something like that. Yeah, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna just say drop down item, and we're gonna say for .dark. Actually, nothing on dark, I'd say, and then on light, we're gonna change the background color to something a little more neutral here. And maybe we'll just say color before, right? So our go-to recently. I've got to update those other things. Let me leave that one commented out for now. Like, it's not bad having the dark. It's just like pretty bold there, obviously, like compared to everything else in the app, which is much more subtle color. So what else? We did context. I just kind of wanted to run through and just see what was left. The graph itself sets a color on edges. Excuse me. Ah, right. So this is interesting because our graph view. Yeah, see, it's actually not terrible, but it does. Our edges, our nodes here, are kind of like this transparent white color, which is not visible at all. So I'll have to fix that. I'll come back and fix that later. What else? We've got the keys, mod K, the tag list. What? Border? Oh, for the keys. Yeah, okay. Yeah, there is. And then what else? The logo itself, which I did say I kind of wanted to make a bit darker. How do I want to do that? I want to make it a little, I think if I just modify the ratio a little bit. So if I said 7, 5, maybe. Might need to play with that in my editor. Oh, yeah, I mean, that made it a little bit darker. We probably want even more than that, though. So we're going to say, like, C6, 4. We're just dropping the scale on them quite a bit to make it a bit darker for the contrast. It's starting to look kind of red, so I might actually play around with, like, an actual color picker. But you get the idea of how we change that. So I'm going to leave that alone. And then the last thing is the, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. So the theme color on the built app that gets installed, I'm not really going to change. All that, the only thing that's going to change is like on Octo, see this bar up here? Like this bar is specified when you install the web app as a progressive web app, the bar gets a special color assigned. I'm probably not going to change the bar just because I don't think I can, first of all. I don't think I can make that dynamic with a progressive web app. So if I can, I totally would change it. So maybe I'll look into it, but the theme color is usually specified on the built bundle. So I don't think that can be dynamic. But yeah, I mean, honestly though, we got through most of it. So, you know, let's just take a quick little peek at the final product here. If we go into the editor settings, we've got dark, which is our default theme, right? Like we've, oh, that's weird. There's a little animation transition. That's cool. Oh, I'm gonna have to fix that. I broke the dark theme a little bit, but you know, I'm gonna have to spend some time reviewing, like going over everything that we did. But yeah, practically done. So we've got our dark theme here. We can open up a document. Looks just like it usually looks, ignoring the sidebar over there. And light theme. Open up a document. We've got our light theme, which is gonna use some, like, gonna need some more work, but. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it, and I feel like we made a lot of progress in a fairly short amount of time here. So I think this is a good place to end things. I'll just, like, on a final note say, you know, if you'd like to check out this stream again, then just feel free to follow me on this on Twitch here. If you'd like to connect, I'm posting my Twitter link here as well. One more thing about the app itself, Octo. This is what I've been working on for, I don't even know how long now, a little over, like, well, I've technically been working on it for like over a year, but like a year to a year and a half, but I've been heavily working on it for the last like 6 to 9 months. So, and then, as I said once before, this is also a safe space. So, you know, I'm trying to recruit more people in the tech industry, especially because I feel like it's pretty notorious that we've got some shitty peers out there who are really trying to gatekeep this space, and I'm not a fan of that. But anyway, thanks to everyone for hanging out, and I will catch you next time.